Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And for those who do not know, the Overflow is the show that we do every week where we discuss basically the questions that we sadly were not able to get to during the podcasts. And one thing that I wanted to thank everyone is for being cool with the new rules that we put in place about the questions and so on and so forth. The main thing for me, because somebody had mentioned it to me, he's like, well, the last Overflow was still 48 minutes. It was. We got to go more in depth on questions than we have in a long time and not been exhausted. Because, because to be honest with you, having, 2 hours worth of questions, some of them you see them, you could go in depth on them, you don't, and you just skip them. And you just say, no, and then you move on to the next one. I hate that feeling. So
there's not a push to move on to the next one because okay, well we spent way too long on questions already. Let's go ahead and move on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So we can better discussion. Exactly,
and we like doing that. We like to be able to flex our mental muscles and really get into it. So. Let's go ahead and start off. Hatman, as always, you get to choose politics or entertainment.
I'm not going to flip a coin this time, and I'm going to say, let's start with politics.
Okay. So, let's go. Creepy Nazgul says, what methods would we recommend for self-discipline? I don't know if we're the best guys to ask about this one. So, I will say this. Over the last year, I have realized that the key thing when it comes to self-discipline is it is a process of learning about what works and what does not work. Mm-hmm. And once you have figured out what works and what does not work, then you have to stick to what works. So to give an example with my diet, I have realized that if I'm going to live a less active lifestyle, meaning that I'm working a lot of hours and I'm doing a lot of writing and things like that, and I'm not exercising and I'm not being very physical, I need to cut carbs out of my diet completely. Now, if I am going to switch and start going into higher levels of exercise, I have to have, one thing to add to the last thing, cut sugar out of my diet too. I realized that if I'm going to work out and I'm going to exercise and I'm going to do intense workouts, then I need to have some sugar in my diet. I need to have some carbohydrates in my diet because that's where the body gets its energy. Even being in ketosis, it's a good feeling to have, but it's not easy to get there. And when you do get there, it's so hard to hold. I was in it and was dropping a ton of weight when I injured my knee. And then the injury set in, it was worse. I was having problems getting around, and I just could not do anything, and then I just got lax on things. So it's a learning process. And the whole thing about it is just building habits. Building good habits as opposed to bad ones. And realizing what your limits are. Like, one thing I'm learning is that I need to have a cheat day. I need to have at least one day out of the week where I have a pizza or something like that. Because if I don't have it, it does seem to increase my stress levels. I seem to have this sort of reaction of, I would feel so much better if I could eat a fucking pizza, or something like that. And then I go out and I do something even worse. I order a pizza and I order breadsticks and wings and soda, and all of a sudden I'm 10 times worse than I was when I started. Tonight, what I just did was I went out and I stocked up on pizza crusts at Walmart, and low-carb ones at that, and I have a bunch of mozzarella cheese and a thing of pizza sauce in my fridge already. So on my cheat day, that's what I'll do. I'll come home, I'll make a pizza, and I'll eat it, and that'll be the end. So that is the big thing, and that's sort of what I've been starting to learn is what is it that I know works, and second is what do I want with my life, and because that's how you're gonna set your goals. Do you want to look and feel more handsome than you did before? I think that it's safe to say when you see pictures of me now at 33 years old and you see pictures of me when I was 29 when we started this whole thing, I look night and day different. I look a lot better because I exercise more often than I used to. I found positive hobbies and things like that. And there's vices that I've been trying to work through. Obviously, getting my eating right it's a habit that's developing. We've talked about porn addiction on here before because we also have some people in the audience who have that same struggle that I do. What I've realized is that I needed to have a physical idea of what I was reaching for and why I wanted the change. Obviously my relationship with Christ is a big factor, but there's more to it than that. I don't want to live alone. And there is somebody that I know that I just found out is single. I didn't realize she was. And I said to myself, maybe I should start talking to her more often. Maybe not pursue a relationship, but start talking to her. But I knew that if I did not straighten my act up sexually, she was going to notice that. She's going to think I'm a perv, and she's not going to want to be with me. But even if even if her and I don't end up together, she's the type of person of character that I would like to have as a girlfriend. And that's something that you honestly, you have to be honest with yourself about, is what do I want in life, and the way I am right now, can I reach that? If I can't, what are the things I need to change? What are the things that I have to do different? I had to do it recently with things that Hatman and I are doing. I had to basically let him take more control of the business, basically, and, take care of certain elements of what we're trying to do and want to do in the next year. So that way I can focus on the content creation, the podcast organization, and that sort of thing, and working on the comic. And then Hatman's taking care of a lot of production things with the shirt store that we're gonna do. He's doing the logistics there. I'm not doing them at all anymore. He's kind of gonna be the intermediary between me and the t-shirt artists. Which doesn't say anything negative about the artists. It's just I don't have the time to keep looking at designs and keep tweaking them with people. It can't be something I do all the time. So that's another limitation I realized that I needed help with. It is those sorts of situations where you realize what your limits are, you're honest about them, and you're honest about how you need to achieve your goals. That's what self-discipline basically is. One thing that has helped me a lot, obviously I've been praying more. My relationship with God has gotten better, though it is a much more emotional, spiritual relationship than it has been in years, and that's been the most interesting part. And I won't go into detail on that, but one thing I will also say is that my relationship with my friends and my family have gotten better, and I've that the prayer, the reading of the Bible, and things like that have helped with that a lot. Another thing I realized was listening to people who have been there and have success in their lives. Listen to them talk helps a lot. One person that I would recommend podcast-wise would be Jocko Willink. Got to keep in mind, that's a guy who was a leader SEAL team. He's a super successful podcast host, and motivational speaker. He would be somebody that I recommend. So, another guy that I would also recommend is a professional wrestler, Diamond Dallas Page. I've used his ZDP yoga system. I'm going to start using it again to help my joints out. He has some great advice when it comes to improving yourself. Stuff like that. So, I gave more detail on that than I realized I was going to. Hatman, do you have anything to add on that one?
You hit a bunch of them. Just something a little personal for me. Laziness is something that I really, deal with a lot. It's just, I guess, how I am by nature, but it doesn't have to be something that I just excuse by saying, hey, I'm just like this. So just something small that I've started doing to push back against that is if I know I've got to do something, I will ask myself, can I do it right now? If I can do it right then and there, then I'd say, just do it. Just go ahead, get the shit done.
Like this show,
That
for
way-
example. Because that was the
Yeah,
question that
exactly.
Hatman actually asked me right before we started.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just get it done. That way you don't have to worry about any kind of deadlines that it might be associated with it, or forgetting about it later, or anything like that. Just get the shit done.
There you go.
Simple as that.
Yep. All right. Daniel Garza asks, thoughts on Sargon running for office and all the shady shit he's been doing, like doxing YouTubers? So the second part I haven't heard anything about. I'm going to have to get some more details on that.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't... Admittedly, we don't know Carl that well. We've talked with him and had good conversations with him, but it's not something like we haven't talked to him in probably over a year or so. You know,
At least, yeah.
because we had him on the show like very early on, and
Yeah.
he doesn't strike me as the type of person who would do that. But then again, neither did Mundane Matt.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm not his friend. If that is the case, I hope that he, rights the wrongs.
Naturally.
I'd be curious to hear the whole story. That's usually what I tell people. Is I want to hear the whole story on that thing. Because some people will say that they've been doxxed when they haven't been. John Delarose tried to accuse me of doxing him. I have no idea what John's anything is. And he tried to accuse me of try to get him fired from the Federalist too. He hasn't written for the Federalist in months, I noticed, and they probably don't really even give a shit about him at this point. So, whatever. But so accusations are one thing. I want to hear the whole story from all angles before I say anything. As opposed to running for office, it's something that I knew he would probably end up doing.
Yeah.
The instant he started getting more political, the instant he started standing up for getting into politics, I knew he was going to run.
As soon as he started, really, really talking UKIP stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got to keep in mind, he was very non-committal on Labour, very non-committal on the Tories. I think that UKIP is a good fit. I think that you could have called it a mile away that was eventually what was going to happen. So, UKIP being the only party in Britain that's actually focused on liberty. Which, the instant we had talked about John Locke, I knew that he was gonna start going that direction. I knew it. I'm like, he keeps talking about libertarianism as a positive. You're gonna end up going that direction. It happens. I think that that's where a lot of young people from our generation, when it comes to the way we want our lives to be lived. We lived through the religious right being a thing, and then we lived through progressive tyranny through the Obama years, and we realized both are terrible. And now there's a new generation of politician and new generation of people who are politically aware that realize that liberty is the way to go. Get the fuck out of everybody else's life. So
it's fun to be free.
Indeed. Hatman, anything on that one you want to add in?
Not really. I think you hit the nail on the head again.
All right. Incel Mafioso asks an interesting one. How ugly do we think the primaries are going to be? They're already ugly.
Oh.
They are targeting Joe Biden before he has even declared.
Yep. Like I mentioned on the politics podcast about Tulsi too. They've really gone in strong after her, and she's, as a result, not considered a contender.
Yep.
No, it's going to get, once the debates actually start, I think CNN has it down for, July, towards the end of July or something. It's going to get messy. It's going to get very, very messy. I mean, we've said for the longest time that the left likes to eat its own.
This is a very good example of it.
Oh, yeah. You're going to get a front row seat to that.
So yeah, the whole thing with Biden, like we've said, they see him as a threat. And every pundit is saying the exact same thing. They see him as a threat. Because they know that he can win. And he would win over the a lot of other people. Cory Booker, no chance. The only person who might have a chance just in popularity with Biden is Bernie. But in the polls right now, Bernie is trailing Biden, even though Biden has not declared. And because, again, of the incumbent factor. Or as they like to say, the old white people in the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Biden's got name recognition. He's got the resume. He is probably, out of all of the possible candidates, the most qualified. If we're going by the same sort of metric that they applied to Hillary.
Yes. Long-standing senator. You know, ridiculously long-standing senator. And
like, what, 30 years or something?
Yeah, and vice president under Barack Obama, who they still are in a love affair with.
Of course.
So, yeah, it's gonna get really ugly. I think that I genuinely look forward to seeing it because it's going to be hilarious. Because they've all got dirt. You know, and all the publications are going to start going starting to eat one another, because some publications are going to go for one person, some publications are going to go for another. You know, they're going after Bernie too, because Bernie's too white. Well, what happens if it's just the running between Kamala Harris and Cory Booker? On one hand, you're going to get think pieces of, is Cory Booker secretly gay? You're going to get other think pieces from other rags that are Cory Booker supporters going, does Kamala Harris screwing her way into public service disqualify her as president? You know, there will be things like that, and it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be... It's this... People have said 2016 is probably, or was probably the craziest fucking year for politics. 2020 is going to be even fucking nuttier.
Oh, yeah, but for different reasons.
Yeah, it's going to be, at least just this year, just the primaries, it's going to be like fucking political Jerry Springer.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
like at this point, fuck it. Just tune in for the entertainment.
And I think that we'll see another example of how powerful the incumbency is in the Democratic Party. Because let's say Biden declares. I still think he's going to. Because the video he put out today was a total non-apology.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's in.
He's definitely in. And they're thinking of the right time to do it. I'm of the opinion that they think that they're waiting for Trump to do something screwy or something faux racist for Biden to jump in there and do it amidst a giant virtue signal, because that will compound things in the public eye.
Mueller report, once that whole report gets released, I would say.
But I don't think the Mueller report's gonna be that bad against Trump at all. You know, I think.
Oh no, it won't. But that's like, if they want to exacerbate anything that does look bad for him, put in Biden. They want to draw attention away from it because it exonerates him more than they expect. Put in Biden.
Okay, I see the perspective. That's definitely a possibility then. But regardless, though, he's going to be prime target number one, and I think that the fact of the matter is that in the Democratic Party, because what we saw in 2016 on the right and on the left was the power of each side's incumbency. The incumbents in the Republican Party wanted Jeb. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Look at how much fundraising he got for how poorly he did. They threw a lot of money at him. Incumbent Republicans did. A fuck ton of money. And Trump buried him. You know, it was... Trump basically shattered dynasties in the 2016 the Clinton, both the Bush and Clinton dynasties got shattered by him. And the other thing about it was just basically it was a changing of the guard, but it also showed how powerful the Democrat incumbency was. You know, Hillary Clinton won partially because of machinations of Democratic incumbents. It was her turn.
Mm-hmm. Everyone had assumed this since Obama won the primary in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
That okay, well Hillary's next. It was just assumed at that point. I mean, even when he gave her the Secretary of State job, oh okay, he's just doing this, you know, so she can build a resume for 2016.
Yep.
And of course, that's exactly what fucking happened. I mean, people were already saying like she's going to be the candidate, but well before she announced.
Oh yeah.
Well before. I mean, yeah. So when Bernie Sanders popped into the picture, everyone was like, wait a minute, no, it's her turn."
Yep, exactly.
It's supposed to be for her.
And remember the fucking the National Convention too, how tenuous of a situation it was. Though the funniest part, oh god, the funniest part was when Bernie fans were visibly crying. Not when people said, like Sarah Silverman said, "Get over it," but when Hillary Clinton supporters started cheering for her and cheering her name, there were Bernie fans who didn't chant louder for Bernie. They just started crying. And I'm like, you bunch of pussies.
Yep.
Like these are the kind of people who want socialism. Oh, God. America will never be a socialist country, folks.
Thank God.
All right. And final question. What's our favorite Mike Lee bit in his speech about the Green New Deal? My favorite was the Russian-Chinese hypocrisy program. Definitely the Tauntaun.
That one was good. My favorite, just on principle alone, was the Ronald Reagan or President Reagan riding a velociraptor with the tattered American flag behind him. Say, RPG strapped to his back and a SMG in one hand. I had never actually seen that picture before, so that was
really
just incredible. Seriously, I've
Dude,
never seen that
those are
picture
very
before.
internet famous. I'm surprised that you, of all people, have not seen them before.
Yep, I had not seen that one before. That specific one. I've seen stuff like Reagan riding an eagle and shit, but
yeah,
not that one specifically. That was great. That was incredible.
Goodness. All right, let's move on to entertainment. Autist Whisper wants to know thoughts on Top Hats and Champagne having his channel deleted. I freely admit that I didn't like the guy, but I think it's bullshit. Oh,
who's Top Hats?
So he's a game vlogger who's not a lefty, but not really right wing either. He's an Aussie as well. Did a lot of kind of started gaining popularity around the Gamergate days, and the only interaction I ever had with him was like over Twitter, because there was that streak where me, him, and Razorfist all did videos about Mass Effect Andromeda and Manveer Hare being a fucking racist, and that was kind of like the how I heard about him, and yeah, it's bullshit. I think that's sort of silly. Unless he's threatening to kill people, I don't understand why you're banning him from your platform.
At this point, it's just become like a common fucking thing for YouTube to ban people for whatever the hell reason. And again, yeah, if you're not actually like breaking the rules, you shouldn't be banned. And YouTube doesn't need to stretch or otherwise bend the rules just to target people that they personally don't like.
Exactly.
Like that's bullshit. I mean, we called it when we said Alex Jones was getting banned. That's going to be the first.
It's boiling the frog.
First of many. Here we go. How long till Sargon's channel gets banned?
It's hard telling. It wouldn't surprise me once he hits the 1 million mark that if they ban him right there.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Or if he actually, like, you know, once he, like, actually enters the whatever race it is, MP race.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all over at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, with feminism being such a cancerous influence on fiction, what female characters do you think would make a better role model for young girls?
Ellen Ripley.
Well, I'm trying not to put anything rated R.
Well, yeah, young girls. Damn, so that means Sarah Connor gets out too.
Yeah, so we'd have to define young. Like teenagers, yeah, then Ripley, Sarah Connor.
Yeah. Younger girls, Princess Leia. God.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, specifically, like, Princess Leia from Star Wars.
Yes.
Like, as soon as the door to her cell gets open, she's basically saving herself from that point.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No reward is worth this.
So there's so many lines in that film about how much of a pain in the ass she is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like she fucking mouthed off to Darth Vader in his face. And Tarkin, too.
Yeah. You can't tell me what to do, Dad!
Yeah, like, fucking... People like to describe her as the damsel in distress, but she really isn't. Like, she again... Luke was just there to open the door. After that, she took care of things herself.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, she was just as capable as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But who else? It's a really good question. Wonder Woman. Specifically Gal Gadot's version.
That's a good one.
The big thing is trying to think of female characters that don't treat men like shit.
Yeah.
So that definitely disqualifies Captain Marvel.
Naturally.
So, other female role models. Alita. Did I mention her yet?
No, you've not. Alita's a very good one.
Casca from Berserk.
For young girls?
Just avoid, beaches.
Again, for young girls?
Okay, fair point.
Some of the Disney princesses actually are pretty good, I would say. Mulan, Mulan especially. Do I want to say Belle, though?
I don't know, do you?
See, that's the thing, like, for most of the movie, or at least for, like, the first half, she is very, like, self-sufficient, self-reliant. Like, the only real, overly feminine quality about her is, taking care of her aging dad. The whole homemaker aspect in that regard. But aside from that, like, book smart and stuff, and, well, then again, you've also got Gaston basically going, oh, well, women shouldn't be reading books and thinking and shit, and she tells him off, so. But then again, he's also meant to just be a oaf anyway. I guess Merida's another good one, even if I don't like Brave that much.
I know nothing about that one, and I'm glad that I don't.
She kind of pushes back really hard against the whole "you've got to get married" thing, and also ripping dresses and riding horses and shit, because typical rebellious Scottish teenage girl.
Yeah, I just remember the girl I was dating at the time when it came out just constantly tried to get me to go see it with her. I'm like, no, no, I have no interest.
That's about all I'm gonna go with right now. I think that's about all I'm gonna go with for right now.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Matchstick wants to know what's our top 5 fantasy books and why. Also, have you ever read the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson? No to the second one.
Top 5 fantasy. Oh.
So we run into a problem here. I'm not much of a fantasy reader.
Yeah. And top 5 lists for like anything are always hard for me. It's just difficult. I mean, just like if you were gonna ask me.
For me, three of them are all fucking straight out of the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
Because it's basically Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite, and arguably the best.
Mm-hmm.
Then probably The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then The Last Battle.
Mm-hmm.
So
you didn't like the Magician's Nephew?
I like the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, the Magician's Nephew would at least be up there, but that's just me.
And then, can I say Berserk? I'm saying Berserk.
I don't know if that's cheating or not. We'll let
I don't really care.
Who asked the question?
Matchstick.
No, we'll let Matchstick decide that one.
And then, God.
Put some Tolkien on there.
Well, that's the thing. I don't actually like reading The Lord of the Rings that much.
What about The Hobbit?
They're all kind of long reads.
Hobbit? Really?
What was I can't remember the page count of The Hobbit.
It was kind of light.
Well, it's lighter in comparison.
Well, true, yeah, but it was light enough for me to literally like lay on the beach and read one day.
I might have to say the Silmarillion actually, just because of all the lore.
310 pages in the first edition, so
yeah, it's pretty sizable.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, the Silmarillion comes to mind. The Communist Manifesto. Definitely fantasy. But yeah, I've never actually no. I actually have to say, it would probably be the Gunslinger. Now that I think about it,
that's some Stephen King in there.
Yeah, I'm not a big Stephen King reader because he's very wordy.
Yeah.
He is Tolkien style wordy.
Very, yeah.
But the Dark Tower series was really good, from what I remember. Or at least I read the Gunslinger. I didn't read many after that.
Honestly, I don't want to put Harry Potter on my list at all, even though that was like huge for me growing up. Because honestly, it's like I don't want to read them anymore. It's not something that I have a yearning to return to, if that makes any sort of sense at all.
Well, not to mention J.K. Rowling at this point is just woke George Lucas.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. Most books, it'll just be a one and done for me. I don't always like to reread stuff because it's like if I know the story, then there's no reason to return to it and be surprised and go through all of that all over again. And I can't exactly share it with people like you can with like movies or TV or any sort of like visual visual art forms. But Harry Potter specifically, I just don't want to go back to, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe it's like a feeling that I've outgrown it in a way. I don't know.
It's possible.
But like, you know, the Hobbit. That's one I would definitely put on my list, because again, you know, I can blow through that one, you know, sitting out on the beach or something. It's for me a quick read, and I enjoy it. I would put The Magician's Nephew on mine, because that was, ironically enough, that was the first Narnia book that I read. I ended up reading them in, I guess, chronological order.
That's an interesting way to read them too.
Yeah, it is. But I enjoyed that one, so that still holds a special place in my heart. You know, of course, being my introduction to it, but I liked it, of course. And what's another one I can put on there? I wish I had my fucking bookshelf in front of me, but I don't. Sure, if I just search Google real quick, I'll find.
See, my whole thing while you're Googling, for me, I've been more of a horror guy throughout when it comes to reading. And even then, I've never really been a big fiction reader either. I've always been more of a, more of a nonfiction guy. I liked reading biographies and historical stuff. Like I never really got or philosophy. I really love philosophy. Fiction books, not really my thing sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't really read that many when I was a kid, except for 2 series that everybody else was reading, Animorphs and Goosebumps.
Yeah, I mean, I got that too. And then, of course, Harry Potter, because that was really blowing up the time. Aragon, but I was never really huge into Aragon. I think, like, I started the 3rd book and didn't even bother to finish, because it was like ridiculously wordy. You could, go back and read it now. You could tell it was written by like a kid who was actively trying to emulate like Tolkien. Yeah, absolutely. Like Game of Thrones. I haven't read Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
American Gods I haven't read. Got to say, with Gaiman is basically Sandman.
Yeah.
Through the Looking
Have you ever
Glass,
read his Mr. Miracle?
I don't think so.
It's really good.
I've read really any Mr. Miracle.
Oh, dude, Mr. Miracle's fucking crazy. The Olympus arc in Mr. Miracle, written by Alan Moore, is one of the most violent stories you will ever read.
It is Alan Moore, so
yeah. And then Gaiman follows him right afterwards, and it's a really interesting story. But yeah, like with fantasy stuff, like for me, a lot of it's been video games. You know, I'm a big time Dungeons and Dragons player. Not so much anymore, but we have the Misadventures of Blarg. And to be honest, if somebody asked a question, and it wasn't on this one, I don't think. Yeah, if I ever had the option of doing a Misadventures of Blarg comic book or animated show, it would be an amazing animated show. It'd be hilarious. Comic, maybe. Comedy is not easy to do in comic books, in my opinion, without absurdist humor. And Blarg is only absurdist to people who are already or know how to play D&D and know that one guy in the party who's an asshole.
Yep.
So, anyway, but yeah, like my favorite books, like fiction-wise, again, you've got the Chronicles of Narnia will always be top of the heap for me. Ted Dekker had a trilogy of books that I can't remember the name of. Let me pull it up real quick, but I really loved them. because it was a dual world. The Circle trilogy was really, really good. So that's another fictional favorite of mine. I guess that's a fantasy story ish. More science fiction than anything, in my opinion.
There's one that I remember reading, but I don't remember anything about the quality of it. And this is, I think it's a kids series, but Deltora Quest. I think that actually ended up getting like an anime adaptation or something at some point. But like I said, I don't remember anything about it except for they were looking for gemstones to a belt.
Okay.
About it.
Speaking of fantasy, though, I did start watching that Shield Hero Weeb thing that everyone has been paying me money to watch.
Rising of the Shield Hero.
Yeah. It had when I started watching it, I understood why everyone was paying me to watch it. Because it hits some chords that are fucking nuts.
It's not waifu anime, is it?
No, it is. The lead character is basically gets wrongfully Me Too'd by someone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I'm trying to think other fictional books that I have read that I really enjoyed. There's not a lot. There really isn't. That's a weird thing.
The irony of being a fiction writer and not having a long list of fiction to recommend.
I know, right? It's weird. Gosh. Well, the weird thing for me is like everybody around me was into Harry Potter, and in high school, and I'm like, he's a good villain, but he's basically Baron Mordo. Just a lot more important. All right, how many have you picked so far, Hatman?
I think like 3.
Do you have 2 more?
Not really, no.
Yeah, like I said, we're not fantasy stuff. Like I like fantasy in my video games, in my television, and films. Mm-hmm. Books, kind of hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, folks, the only reason that I ever dipped into Harry Potter was to get laid.
Dipped into Harry Potter to dip into someone else.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I shit you not. The I got so let's do a story time with Micah here. So, college is when Goblet of Fire came out for me. And the girlfriend was, of course, all over some Harry Potter. I never understood why. I watched a couple of the movies with her. I didn't really get it. It really just kind of felt weird. Like they're telling, like they're yelling these Latin words at one another. I'm like, just go up and fucking punch him in the head. What's so hard about that? Is he gonna expelliarm your fucking arm off? I don't think so.
It's like they're yelling Latin in the earlier ones, and then the later ones they're just waving the sticks around, not even bothering to say anything at that point.
Exactly. So I'm just kind of like, fuck me, whatever. So, but then Goblet of Fire comes out, and the introduction of the big bad is the jackass from Twilight dies. Just bam, dead. I'm like, so I look at my girlfriend. Now we were in a small theater in a smaller town. I look at her and I'm like, okay, where was that awesomeness 2 hours ago? Like fucking seriously, because they continue to threaten throughout the story. You could die here. And the thing that kills you is not the whatever it was for the Goblet of Fire. It was like fucking Satan. No. It was Jason Isaacs with a white wig on, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, where the fuck was that? Because fantasy, is usually defined by really good villains or really ominous villains. You know, the White Witch in Chronicles of Narnia is obviously the big bad there. And then, of course, you have Sauron, who is just an eyeball for most of the fucking story, and he's still ominous. You know, and though not really fantasy, like the quasi-fantasy, like you've got your Cthulhu mythos, the elder gods, you know, of Nyarlathotep and Dagon and Cthulhu and others. You know, big, intimidating, ominous forces that drive you insane. So, like, for a fantasy story to have such, like, weak antagonists, it really just felt like a high school drama with wands. And I fucking hated it. The whole goddamn time.
More or less, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's... I get it. It's young. It's aimed toward a younger audience than me. I am clearly not who they were aiming for demographic-wise. I'm fine with that. I can still recognize when something's good. And it just felt like... It felt like Saved by the Bell with wands. Then Voldemort showed up and then shit got real.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it took a big tonal shift at that point.
It's basically like going to a music store and they're playing pop music and stuff like that. Then suddenly the second shift guy comes in, he goes over to the CD player, he changes it from Katy Perry to Cannibal Corpse's Butchered at Birth.
That'll do it, yeah. That'll do it.
The first thing you hear is bum 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 bum. And it's like
that'll do it.
Yeah, and the guy behind the cashier is just going, hammer smash face. It's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, this got a lot better. God, now I'm at the title of this one. Micah loves Voldemort.
Oh God.
All right, final.
Just real quick, if you ever had the time, look up like the actual behind the scenes pictures of the Harry Potter movies after like Goblet of Fire and stuff, and just see like how different Ralph Fiennes looks like with his nose poking out.
Oh, I bet it looks hilarious.
Oh, it is absolutely fucking hilarious. It looks great. It looks great.
Wait a minute. It just dawned on me. Why isn't he Doctor Doom? Why did we not think of that before right now?
Holy shit.
Perfect casting.
Holy shit.
He'd be incredible.
Okay.
Marvel, we just gave you everything. Ralph Fiennes, Doctor Doom, do it. I mean, fuck, like, we've got Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. Like, we might as well get Ralph Fiennes into a fucking costume at this point. Jesus. And by the way, actually, no, we'll do a different video for that. Final question from Daniel Garza. Thoughts on a 40K TV show? Who would be the protagonist? What Imperial forces are committed? Who are they fighting? Etc., etc. So, we've actually answered this question before, but it's been a while. Basic idea, you're right, it does need to be a TV show. How I would...
No, that was about a movie. That's right. That's right.
And we turned down the movie idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's already been a 40K movie. It's called Ultramarines. And it's actually halfway decent. But TV show-wise, you're obviously going to format it like Game of Thrones because you have all of these factions that are going to be a part of it. My whole thing is that you want to focus your main humans on, obviously, the Empire of Man, and you're going to want to do the Ultramarines because they are the most popular and most well-recognized of all Marine factions within 40K. You're also going to want to have it split with a couple other different forces within there that are warring with them. You know, what I would do would probably be the ones that would have like big-time character focus. Probably the Eldar would be a pick of mine, and then... Oh, God, who are the space commies? I always forget their name because I'm terrible. It'll say the Tau.
There you go. So
I would have those three factions at first be kind of, set the stage for a war, and then start to introduce certain antagonists that mix up the situation and can work as sort of either your horror or your comic relief. So for that, you've got your Tyranids, you've got Chaos, and you've got the Orcs, obviously, because everybody loves the wah! So, and yes, I'm aware I can do a halfway decent wah. But, I just remember when I first got introduced to the Warhammer 40k Space Marine game, which oddly enough is the game that got me into 40k, was I would constantly tell people when I was working at Blistered Thumbs, I would just randomly say to them in voice just like, Space Marine! Kill them humans! So, yeah. But anyway, that's how I would format it. Is I want to establish characters that people are going to be interested in each faction. I'm going to want them to have consistent enemies on each side between these three factions, and then introduce other elements to kind of fuck with everything. Later on, I would give Chaos more of a influence on what's going on, more characterization with them, and so on and so forth. So that's how I would do a 40k TV show. And I would bring back Captain Titus. Because, I mean, seriously, Mark Strong as a lead in a fucking 40k game, 40k TV show, people would be all over it, man. That's the interesting thing about 40k is like whenever they do some mediums like that, they're pretty hell-bent and determined on getting some pretty good voice actors, or actors in general. Mark Strong was Captain Titus in 40k Space Marine, and in Ultramarines, the film, John Hurt is in that movie. So, God rest his soul. I miss John Hurt, man.
I know, right?
So good. I think, in my opinion, the reason that we consider the Xenomorph to be as horrifying as it is because of the way that John Hurt portrayed that thing getting burst out of his chest.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great scene.
It is, because it is truly horrifying. And
it's totally fucking unexpected, too. That's
totally unexpected, and his reaction and the wails as he's dying and the sputtering, and like I can hear it in my head right now, and it's legitimately making my skin crawl. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason that I do not suffer the Xenos to live. Like, seriously. Like, no. Fuck it, no. Space Bug, get the flamethrower. We got some work to do. What? What are you thinking now?
I say kill them all. Oh, God.
Yep, I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to watch that tonight. I haven't watched Starship Troopers in a long time.
We still have to watch the Trump Prophecy, too.
We do. We're going to have to do that next week.
Yeah. This week has been kind of... Jesus.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But Shazam comes out this weekend.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
I will probably be broke, but I will try to see it.
Yeah, it is solid, of course. You all should know by now. And if you don't, I reviewed it. I reviewed it on the podcast. Go watch it if you haven't already. Or if you have, watch it again. Why not?
Exactly.
Good
all
stuff.
Right. Well, folks, we appreciate you all stopping by. Don't forget, podcast once again this Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Another thing to mention, and this has been confirmed, is Hatman and I will be guests at the International Conference for Men's Issues in Chicago. Let me get the dates real quick, because it's in August. So the dates are August 16th, 17th, and 18th in this year at the at a hotel near the O'Hare International Airport. Of course, members of the Honey Badgers will be there. Brian Martinez was one who invited us to it. Brian, of course, for those who don't know, is working with me. He's my artist on Inglewood. And we will also be... other people like Count Dankula will be there, and others that I'm forgetting as well. So it'll be an interesting conference, to say the least. And I'm trying to think, there were some other people that I had saw that was interesting. Robbie Sove from Reason.com will be there, and a few others that I'm forgetting. So
it also coincides with the anniversary of the podcast too.
It does. We're looking at possibly doing a live podcast there. I don't know if we will end up doing it, or we may just end up recording from the hotel room. Mm-hmm. Hard telling. But we will definitely be there. Really looking forward to it as well. I want to thank the Honey Badgers for having us. It's gonna be an interesting time to discuss. We'll basically be there to discuss entertainment. It's gonna be an interesting time to talk about the role of men in modern entertainment and the feminist attempted infiltration to try to move men out of it. I think that's going to be an interesting discussion to have with a lot of these guys, because we've noticed it. We don't talk about it a whole lot. We're not MRAs, but we do agree with them on a great many subjects. And oddly enough, most reasonable people do when you actually present the issue to them. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, you know, having done Men's Issues Week on my main channel, this is obviously something I care about. So I'm really looking forward to it. Not to mention it's in my home state. So, but we are going to go ahead and take off, guys. Thank you so much for the questions, for donations over the past week and things like that. Again, we'll see you guys this coming Saturday. But until then, my name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
We'll see you guys next week. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.